Hey girl, welcome to Finding My Best Self, the podcast where it's totally okay to show up in your leggings and messy bun. Because let's be real, that's our uniform here. The only rule is to be unapologetically yourself.
And I'm Mandy, and joining me is Pam, the queen of finding the silver linings. We're here to share laughs, tears, and everything in between. Think of us as your new best friends with some stories to tell and wisdom to share.
From face palms to victories, we're diving into the journey of self-discovery, wellness, and what it means to truly embrace who you are. So whether you're conquering the world or just trying to find your phone in the black hole, purse, we've got you covered.
Because here it's all about encouraging you to lace up those sneakers, or don't, we're not judging, and join us as we explore what it truly means to own your confidence and find your best self.
So pour yourself a cup of coffee or a glass of wine and let's get into it.
Hi, it's Mandy St. Germain at the Finding My Best Self podcast. I am doing an interview today with Ana Reisdorf, and we had a conversation on her podcast not that long ago, and I said I have to get you on ours to share your story. She is a registered dietitian and a content creator, and I'm super excited to get her input and feedback in just all things entrepreneur, motherhood, and also a GLP-1 user like myself. So I'm going to go ahead and kick it off and let Ana introduce herself.
Sure. Thank you so much for having me, Mandy. I'm so happy to be on this podcast too. So I'm Ana Reisdorf. I live outside of Nashville, Tennessee, and I have been a registered dietitian for almost 20 years now, since 2006. I've done a lot of things in my career as a registered dietitian, teaching at the university, working at hospitals, all sorts of things. But the last 10 years, I've been working in content marketing. And so I have a team and we write content for brands. So a lot of the health articles that you might read, a lot of the recipes you might see, those were created by myself and my team about health and nutrition. And in the last couple of years, for a lot of different reasons, AI changes in Google and all sorts of things, the market for written content has really declined. Mm-hmm. And my business was struggling a little bit. So I decided to make a shift and use all of these skills and all of this, platform that I have and move into creating content and helping people who are using GLP-1s, because I am a GLP-1 user myself. And I just see a lot of misinformation and people confused about what they're doing and what they're supposed to be, how they're supposed to be using it and how they can actually use it to be healthier and not just, make things worse for themselves. So I created the GLP-1 Hub platform, and I've been working on that this year, trying to get that up and running. And I'm really excited. Like before we got on, I was working. I never work on a Saturday. I was like literally working. So,
but that's the best kind of work. The work that like you're so passionate about that it doesn't matter what time of the day or what day of the week it is. You just can't shut it off because it's something that you're that driven towards. So that's super exciting.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this new direction.
Well, and that's kind of where our conversation started. If you want to check out her podcast, she also has one, the GLP-1 Hub, and just great information based around just kind of the do's, don'ts, the myths, and the truths behind it. And so I know that you kind of spoke to what led you to kind of creating that, but just thinking about the decision to kind of make that shift, because it's interesting that you kind of said to take all of the things that you've learned, because I truly feel that a lot of us can connect with that, where throughout our path and journey that we have collected all of this knowledge that ultimately has led to something that we're passionate about. So kind of taking us back a little, aside from the shift that you said with AI, I know that you're still doing writing and things like that. So how did that kind of all come to fruition for you?
You mean with the writing at the beginning or now?
Kind of with the beginning, like how did it start there and shift to where it's at now?
Sure. So I was a dietitian. I started doing a lot of different jobs, but I'm not a very good employee. Like I don't like people telling me what to do. I want to come and go as I please. I want to do things my way. And I think I've always been an entrepreneur at heart. And I was afraid to sort of make that leap at that time. I was single, like I had to rely on myself for my income, health insurance, all of that. And so that was kind of scary. And then I ended up getting fired from my dietitian job. And like, that's not really something I share that much because it's kind of embarrassing, but there was a lot of extenuating circumstances around that. People who didn't like me and didn't like my entrepreneurial attitude.
Mhm.
So that kind of propelled me into like, okay, now I've got to make this work. And I just saw like there was so many skills that I had. I had already been writing a little bit on the side, and I knew I could ramp that up if now I had the time and I wasn't working a full-time job. There were a lot of opportunities at the time too to like do one day a week here and there to consult at long-term care facilities as a dietitian. So I did some of that. So I just kind of like started pulling together a job for myself, which turned out to be much more fulfilling to me
Right.
than having a job and like dealing with the politics of the job and having to go there all the time, because I could just do something different every day, and it ended up being great. And so when we moved here to Nashville, because that was when I lived in California, I just decided that writing was what I wanted to do. And at the time also, they're like the demand just started. Google had made this big change where they really wanted writing by experts in the health
Mhm.
field, particularly. They didn't want just like whoever talking about it. And so the demand just grew. And I was able to like grow this huge team of 8 dietitian content creators to help to work with me. And that was just really, really fulfilling to be able to do that.
Well, and I have to say, you're a phenomenal writer. If you go check out her website, the GLP-1 Hub, blog post, all the information, it's definitely a gift of yours. And it's so interesting that you're bringing up just a shift in career too, because this is something my co-host Pam and I had just had that conversation this week about, really doing something that you're passionate about and being able to connect that, because like you said, it doesn't seem like work and you just are able to pour more into it. And I feel like excuse me, whenever we are kind of being, like you said, ran by someone else or told what to do, then you don't get that creative flow that you would if you're doing something that you're more passionate about.
Right.
And just as a mom and an entrepreneur, because we do try and focus, a lot of our thought on that, like how are you balancing, mom life or the shift, or just having the more flexibility with your career now?
I mean, it was important to me, and I think that that was another push when I made this career, this jump sort of into entrepreneurship. I wasn't married yet, so it was a little bit more difficult. But I knew that once I became a mom, like I didn't want to have a full time job, and I like working. I didn't want to be a stay at home mom. I tried that for a few months and cried every day,
Yeah.
and so that wasn't for me either. But having a full-time job was just like not going to work. I mean, kids get sick,
Hmm.
they have to go here and there, and it's just too much to like try to schedule and figure all of that out. So it actually was like a blessing to me and pushed me harder to get into being an entrepreneur just because of the flexibility that it allowed. And so I mean, I've always been a person who's put the children, like my children, in some kind of care at least a couple days a week. Remember when I first moved here to Nashville, we joined the Lifetime Gym, and they had like I think it was
Oh
like
yeah.
3 free hours of childcare a day. And I remember going to my husband. I was like, okay, the membership is expensive, but it's like $120 a month or whatever. I mean, for 15 hours of childcare a week, like that's significantly
Right.
less
Exactly.
than what you would pay. So I remember we were members at that gym, and I worked there for 6 months every day, and I never worked out. I just used their free childcare, and that was those were my work hours. And
I love that. Like
there was
that's
an
such a
yeah.
like a what do they call that, where it's like a oh, almost getting away with the system. Like that's perfect, and
Mhm.
honestly gives you like that time to kind of have devoted time, but then the kids get to go play. That's so
Right.
cool.
Well, he was a baby at the time. It was my youngest one, and there was an old lady that would work there right in the middle of the day, and he was the only baby in there. And it was just like, it was like a gift that
It's
I
meant
gave
to be.
her.
Yeah.
Right. And she just would hold him and just be there with him. And I felt great about it. So I've always just tried to like figure that out. But just being an entrepreneur really just allows the flexibility that you want, I think.
Oh, for sure. And I'm the same way. I've tried the stay-at-home mom route, but I still worked. Like I couldn't just be home and not have some type of focus or income coming in. And so I completely agree with you. And that's kind of like where the shift is right now, is trying to figure out the balance. And I feel like people say that so often, well, how do you balance work life, family? And it's like, there's really no balance. You just try and figure out what works best for you and for your family, and being able to shift where you need to on certain days, because every day is different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. But that flexibility, allows that to happen.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So coming back to your GLP-1 hub and all of the amazing things that are happening there, has anything kind of happened since you launched the website, the blog, and the podcast that has been like a surprise to you, or something that you're like super excited about?
Yeah. So the last 2 years with my content marketing business, um, it's been really difficult. The beginning of this, I invested a lot in like this course I was launching, and I got into debt, and then the amount of work started declining, and I was like struggling to pay the bills every month and pay my team, and everything has just been a struggle for the last 2 years. And I've just been like, I remember being in church one day and just being like, give me a direction. Like, what do I do? Like, this is failing. This is failing before my eyes. I'm struggling so hard. And it's just been friction, 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 like so hard. And then when I started this GLP-1, there's no friction. Everything is coming. Like, I started this podcast, 4 episodes in, I have 1,000 downloads. Like, how is that even a thing? I had in my mind that I was going to get sponsored by Nestle,
Mm-hmm.
and they have a line of frozen foods for GLP-1.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I'm not sponsored by Nestle yet, but
Not yet. Not
not yet.
yet.
But one of my colleagues was like, "Oh, they just sent me this PR email, and they are looking for people." And so now I have the contact at
Yes.
Nestle. And I know I need to grow a little bit more before they're going to do that. But like now I know who to turn to. It's just like everything is
Yes.
opening. Every
Mm-hmm.
door is opening. Everything that I say, okay, I want a sponsor. I have 2 sponsors for the podcast.
That is amazing. And it's literally, and we have to attest to that too at MBS. We 100% just, it got to a point, the same thing. Like, we know this is what we're supposed to be doing. We know that this is the direction we're supposed to be going. But why is it so hard right now? But it was because all these little things were being placed in front of us. And like you said, it just comes and it's easy. And then literally we just sit there and we're like, God did it. God did it.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's no other explanation. Like you said, the contacts, or just certain things, certain people we meet, certain situations, it all is happening and kind of laying those seeds, because that's what, your passion and your life purpose is. And so I'm so thankful that you're following that, because a lot of people don't necessarily, they may look at it and they're like, oh, well, that sounds great, but I don't want to take the risk, or I don't want to try it. And so like you said, like, you're a go-getter, you're going to constantly go after the things that you feel like you should be doing. And that's what one of the beauties of entrepreneurship is to make those shifts and just know that you're going to be guided in the direction that you need to go.
Right.
Um, so with the passive income and things like that, so in starting with the GLP-1 hub, kind of what are the next steps moving forward, as far as where the direction of it, kind of the plan that you have or that you envision is going to
Yeah.
take place?
Well, I want to keep growing it, which it's been growing really well. And I think I need to get sort of a level of followers, across all the platforms and on the podcast. And then, more support products for GLP-1 users. So I'm trying to understand more and more like what people need. I created 2 quick like nutrition guides
Mm-hmm.
that have meal plans in them and like how to plan your meals and stuff like that. But I envision it being like a lot more, like a whole platform of guides and meal plans and tips and
Mm-hmm.
all of that kind of stuff. And then just having more partners as well, like MBS gratefully offered me sort of just like a little affiliate
Mm-hmm.
opportunity, and I want to get more of those types of partners of other
Mm-hmm.
brands that I believe in and other foods that I believe in. So that's sort of like my monetization goal, but my real goal is to have like a community. People are already starting to ask me questions
Mm-hmm.
and comments, and it's small right now, so I don't get that many, but like I really want to help people in that way, and maybe eventually bring in more dietitians if people want like individual counseling, or I'm just trying to see what kind of support they're looking for, because I have my own ideas, but I don't you never know what people are really struggling with.
Right, and be able to have that community, and that's why I love it's called the Hub, because it really will be a one-stop shop for all things. And in the Facebook group, you have a Facebook group for it,
Mhm.
and people are already going in there and asking questions, or after episodes and things like that, kind of giving feedback. So that's I can honestly see the progression of that. Like you said, there's not a lot of that out, and that conversation is finally becoming one that's comfortable for people to talk about. And so you having that platform and kind of just your background on everything,
Mhm.
those connections are definitely going to come.
Yeah, and then
I can
I
see
I
it.
see there's a lot of information about GLP-1 out there, and I see it's not coming from healthcare providers. Like the people who have the big followings and stuff are people who they've lost weight on GLP-1, which is fine and great, wonderful to share their story. But like sometimes I see them providing advice that is not
Mm-hmm.
good advice based on their own experience, which,
Mm-hmm.
that's part of the GLP-1 hub, of course. But I just feel like there needs to be more voices like mine that have a little bit deeper understanding of, nutrition and
Right.
legitimate information. So,
Yeah, and I think too a lot of it you hear the negatives to it. You don't necessarily, and that's like anything else. I mean, the negatives are going to kind of outweigh the positives. So if you do have that platform to speak to the positive things that have happened, speaking to other people that it's actually been beneficial for, but then also bringing in, like you said, the experts that can kind of speak to what are the health benefits for it and why is it here, because I
mhm,
do think that people just look at it as a weight loss fix, quick fix, but there's so much that goes into it for PCOS and diabetics and all these other things, that there are truths to it that are not all negative.
mhm.
And hopefully that is what begins to flood our news feeds, not the negativity part to it.
Yeah, my husband
um
sent me some tweet or like an X, I don't know what they're called now, post on X
I know.
the other
I
day,
still say tweet.
and it was like something about weight loss medication, and then the comments underneath were like, "Good luck with your blindness. Good luck
Yeah.
with your kidney failure." Like all this stuff, and I was like, "Oh my god!" Like
Yeah. I seen one earlier today too that was talking about it. It's made from snake venom, apparently. That I was
it
not
is made
over.
from the saliva of
Yeah.
a Gila monster, but it's not.
It was all
Yeah,
negative after that though. It was like, oh, they're gonna be blind. They're gonna and I'm not discrediting that might happen to some people. Like
sure,
with any medication, there's a side effect for some, but that's not for all. And I feel like it's been, kind of blanketed statement that there's negative side effects for everybody, and that's just not the case.
sure. Yeah, it's just funny to read all the
Yeah.
comments.
And how passionate they get about it, for sure. So kind of looking at, I kind of want to talk to, I had seen on we had kind of talked before about your comment you made about constantly hustling. That stuck to me so much whenever I read that, with the little questionnaire that we had sent to you, that this was another reason why you had kind of made this shift, is that you didn't want the constant hustle. And I feel that so much, especially lately. And so I just kind of wanted to have a little conversation about that and address, like, what exactly does that look like for you?
Mm-hmm. So this year, in addition to starting the GLP-1 Hub, I've like wanted to really get more sources of passive income. And I know that in the beginning, the GLP-1 Hub is going to take some hustling, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm feeling really good about it. And so I think that eventually I'll be able to take my foot off the pedal. But like I mentioned, in the last 2 years, it's just been so hard. And I just felt like every day I was like emailing people, do you have work for me? Do you have work for me? Do you have work for me? And it was like just this never ending thing that I was just like constantly having to like look for work, look. And I just am tired. I'm just tired. And this content creation and talking about GLP-1s and just being able to come on and like talk about who I am and not having to be like, how can I convince this person to give me money? How can I convince this person to give
Mm-hmm.
me work? You know, that's what I wanted to back off from and instead like go into a space of more like creativity and work that doesn't feel so like, I don't know, friction.
Right.
Friction
Or
is the
just
word
like,
that keeps coming up for me.
yeah, or just like money driven, because I do
Hmm.
feel like we get into these states where, obviously you want a job that's going to pay well, but then I would imagine with that, you're constantly having to look for sources just to where you can have that income come in, to where it's a constant hustle. And I think too, just shifting from us always feeling like a like we're constantly in this rat race. That's kind of what I think about, because especially just being in my current position and also doing MBS on the side, it's hard. It's hard to juggle something that you're passionate about, because I am passionate about both of them, but at the same time, it's the balance between the two, and not feeling like I'm constantly pushing towards something else, that it's kind of just coming to me. And I know that's what you were saying with the hub, is that it's just easy. And I feel that's whenever you kind of find your niche, your thing. And so I'm hopeful that that brings that passive income. That way, it's not a constant battle, because you are still writing on the side too, correct?
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, the hub, even though I've got two sponsors, they're not paying the amount that I need
Hmm.
because I started small.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I still have to do writing. And so it's in the last like 2 weeks or so, I've really been focusing on just growing the hub. But through this beginning of this year, I've really had to do both.
Hmm.
And my husband's always like, oh, you could just do both, just split your day. And I'm like, it's not really like,
Yeah.
once writing takes a lot like out of your
Hmm.
mental abilities. There's only so much you can do if you're writing. You can't write 10 hours a day.
Hmm.
It's just too hard. And so, yes, I have to do both for a little while, but I'm hopeful, if I continue to put effort into this, and because just the topic is so popular right now, um, I'll be able to spin it up pretty quickly.
Yeah, and and that's why I think too that it's like the perfect time, and I mean that's why I was glad to find it, because um, it was able to shed light on the things that I had kind of talked about before, but not really. And so I think just having that safe place to kind of discuss that will be good.
Yeah, yeah. The community aspect is really important to me, and I want to think through more how I can encourage people to share. Because I think I mentioned to you, I've been struggling a little bit to get people to come on to talk about
Mhm.
their stories. I've got plenty of doctors lined up. I got plenty of dietitians. That's no problem at all. But finding people to come share, like one of my girlfriends was talking to me about it, and she's like, oh, I just don't know, if I can tell people. I'm like, everybody knows
Right.
you lost 40 pounds in like 5 months. Everybody knows.
We know, but we want to hear your experience. And that's the thing.
Right.
I think the more people discuss their experience, even if it's up and down, I mean, everybody has a different journey with it. So, but I feel like that's where people will start to talk about it more, because they're like, oh, I can resonate with that. Or, yes, I felt like that too. And the stigma will hopefully go away, because it really shouldn't be a stigma. I mean, this has been a great thing for a lot of people. And so
Hmm.
I'm really hopeful that she does share. So if you're listening, you need to go share your story.
Well, there's a lot of, I've recently discovered there's a whole community of YouTubers who are
Mm.
sharing and talking about their journey. And so I've managed to like comment on some of those,
Yeah.
and some of them have agreed to come
Well,
on. So
good. That's
yeah,
exciting. Yeah.
yeah,
Well, that'll be great.
I hope so.
Well, and kind of going back to just career shifting in general, I know for a lot of people that's scary just the same as far as being confident enough to go from one career to the other or to kind of simultaneously do the same. So, what advice would you give to women or, just an individual in general that might be trying to make a shift that way or kind of hesitant?
I think that you need, I mean, just because sometimes have to take the leap. When I first started writing, I kind of I was doing a nursing home consulting, and so I just kind of ramped that down as the writing started to go up. And I know that I'm lucky to have had that because I could flex my time, but like I just kind of ramped it. And so as the writing went up, I dropped a nursing home, and like it worked out for me. And I know that not everybody has that sort of ability to make that change, but I think that we go through phases too. So right now I'm in like a period of growing the GLP-1 Hub, and I can't drop this other stuff because the GLP-1 Hub isn't making really any money
Mhm.
at the moment. So I'm going to have to just accept that I'm going to go through probably 6 months or longer of doing both. And it's maybe going to be tiring, but I see the light at the end of the tunnel. So if you're really feeling like lead, like this is this idea came to me. It was like one of those ideas that just plops in your head,
Mhm.
like Jesus just put it in there. And I was like, oh,
Yeah.
wow, okay. And then like I went and I looked, and the domain name was available, glp-1hub.com. And I was like, oh my God, this is a sign.
Yeah.
Buy it right now. Bought it like that second.
Yeah.
And
I don't know what
so,
I'm doing yet, but I'm claiming it's mine.
right. And so when you're like getting all these yeses along the way, like you have to listen to that at some point,
Mhm.
even if
Mhm.
it means a phase of, you know, doing both.
Right, of the hustle. We have to
Hmm.
hustle. Yeah. I mean, and I think that's gonna resonate so much with so many because we know, like you said, like you're being pulled, you're being guided, and you feel it, and it's just for us to listen and to let it happen and not try and have our own reasoning behind it. Like, "Oh, maybe I shouldn't," or "I don't know if this is, like, what I'm supposed to be doing," but whenever it's easy and it flows, then that's your sign that that's what the direction you need to go. And that's such a powerful shift to make whenever you can finally just say, "Okay, I have to stay on course. It's gonna work out."
Right. And then if there's something that like you can't stop thinking about,
Mm,
this was in my head, and I was like, I got to do it. I got to do it. It was just like something you wake up in the middle of the night and it's like on your mind.
mhm, mhm. I love that, and I'm glad that you did it because I'm a total fan now, and I
Thank you.
appreciate it. Well, to kinda close out our conversation, we always ask, what do you think the woman beyond the cape means to you? So this is something that, MBS kinda stands behind. Obviously, we're MBS, the woman beyond the cape, and just thinking of women in general and all the different roles that we play, what do you think that means for you?
What I've been thinking about a lot lately is like how to really be yourself as much as possible and authentic as much as possible. So that was what I was thinking about, is sometimes we put on this front and to look a certain way or to be a certain way. And I think, speaking of the AI, the authenticity is going to be even more important because the AI is perfect and not authentic at all.
Mhm, mhm,
So I was just thinking, putting that into your business of who you truly are and showing up with your mistakes and your flaws and all of that is what I really connected with the woman beyond the cape, to
mm,
show ourselves. And I think that's how we're going to stand out, you know,
yeah.
in business and in this world with these robots doing what they're doing,
Taking over the world.
whatever they're doing.
Yes, yes, I love that so much because it is true. I mean, you see it every day on social media. It's a highlight reel. People are not sharing. Now we're getting better. It's getting better. But I do feel that people just want to see people. We want to
Mm-hmm.
see the good, the bad, the ugly, the struggles. And that's why I think we connected so much, because that's what, I see in your stories. You're constantly showing the different things that you're doing and being honest about it. And that's what we need to see more of, especially as women and as moms, and just being able to show that, yes, we're trying to do all these things, but it's not perfect. And we're just trying to do our best every single day
Mm-hmm.
and find ourselves along the way. So
Yeah. Yeah. I hope
I
so.
appreciate that so much. Well, thank you so much for coming on today. And like I said, we'll drop everything in the show notes as far as your links, your Facebook, the podcast, all of the things. And as always, if you resonated with this, please share it with someone and leave us a review. We would love to hear from you and any other topics that you are wanting to discuss. But thank you again, Ana, and I will see you on Facebook, on Instagram, and on your podcast as a weekly listener. So thank you
Oh,
so much.
thank you so much. I'll talk to
All
you
right.
soon.
Yes. Bye. Well, that's a wrap on today's episode of Finding My Best Self. It's been real. It's been fun. We hope you found a piece of your story in ours and feel a little more inspired to chase after your best self.
And don't forget to share this episode with someone who needs a little boost today or a good laugh. And make sure to subscribe to our podcast so you never miss an episode.
Nothing says owning your confidence like a new outfit from MBS Fitco. Check out the show notes for the link to shop our luxury athleisure. Go ahead, girl. Treat yourself.
And if you've got a story to share or a topic you're dying for us to cover, drop us a line. Our email is in the show notes. Just reach out and let's keep the conversation going.
So, until next time, keep owning your confidence, embracing the chaos, and remember, the best version of you is just an episode away.
And again, we love you and we're endlessly rooting for you.